Hey, it's Baldie. We're back with more Baldie's baseball talk. That's what we call it. I'm back in my little furry fucking hoodie. I want to get one more baseball talk in before we move. As you can see, we're packing our shit up and we're moving, so I might not have an episode again until after the trade deadline on July 31st. Today it's July 25th. I've got a couple of things that I want to talk about. Let's get started. So there's two major things that happened with the Red Sox this week. One is that Dan Shaughnessy of the Boston Globe came out with more information, actually a complete story about how David Price blew up on Eckersley on the team plane. We could talk about that, or we could talk about number two, which is Rafael Devers being called up to the big league club after only playing 8 games in AAA in Pawtucket. So I think we're going to talk about Devers because everybody knows David Price is a dick, and maybe I'll talk more about that in the future because it's bound to be an issue. I'm looking at Pete Abraham's Twitter account, and he says a couple of things that I want to repeat. He says the Red Sox have hit 206 in the last 17 games. That's 3.1 runs per game. Devers could help, but they need more than that. I agree. He says the Red Sox have a 3.34 ERA in their last 17 games, and they've lost 11 of them. That's hard to do. I agree with that, too. I've been preaching for a while that the Sox need a bat, and I also preached that they should be patient looking for a third baseman on the trade market because they could always just wait a month and call up Devers during the September call-ups. Well, Dave Dombrowski obviously had a different plan. He brought him up now after only 8 games in the minors, or in AAA, with the goal of adding him early so that he could be on the postseason roster should they get there, and they have a 91% chance to get there as it stands. So that's all well and good. So let's take a look at his stats according to BaseballReference.com. Okay, in Pawtucket this year. Now let's start with Portland. He played in 77 games. He hit .369 with 18 homers. That's not too shabby. In, 8 games, like I said, he hit .400 in Pawtucket with 14 hits. And 35 at-bats, home runs, where are they? 2. He also made 4 errors in the past 8 games. All 8 games that he had in Pawtucket. He's awesome. The organization clearly believes, from John Henry all the way down to John Farrell, they clearly believe that he's their next, 5-tool player. His defense may suffer once in a while, but he himself has said that he is determined to become a Major League Baseball superstar at the third base position. He doesn't want to move to first. He doesn't want to move anywhere. He wants to be the man. And he knows that Boston has a need for a third baseman as it is, and more offense. So that's cool that they brought him up, but I have one problem with that. The problem is that Boston needs more offense than just what Rafael Devers can give them. The guy's 20 years old. He's a young kid. Whether he's going to be a superstar or not, that's not really proven. A lot of guys have come up from the majors and or skipped AAA altogether, and they were studs in the minors and then kind of fell on their face. As soon as they got to the majors. So my concern is that the Red Sox will lean on him so much because they suck. They absolutely suck at the plate. Somehow they're still in first place by 3 games. But they can't score runs. I mean, Boston honestly should have like a 10-game lead in the division right now and be cruising right into the playoffs. But really, it's not even a certainty that they're going to win the division. Are they going to rely on him so heavily that he falters? And then what happens if he does falter? If he doesn't hit well, maybe they'll send him back down and say it was a trial period and try to put a spin on it. But then they're still looking for a third baseman. And they've got 6 days left before the non-waiver trade deadline expires. So, like I said, Boston needs another bat, regardless of what they do with Devers. So, my original idea is still intact. bring Devers up. They did a little early, but have him play third. And then scour the trade market for a first baseman and or an outfielder. Now, you can say they've got enough outfielders. That's true. But if you have to, are you just going to let the season drift by and them accomplish nothing in the playoffs because they can't hit? Kind of like they did last year, even though they had the best offense in baseball last year. Now we've got, I think, the 29th best out of 30 clubs. Are you really going to let the whole season disappear because they can't hit? So my idea is, if you want to get an outfielder, like I said, with the purely theoretical Giancarlo Stanton trade, is to package Jackie Bradley Jr. or Andrew Benintendi in a deal for a corner outfielder that can hit, because they clearly need something. If you don't want to subtract anyone, then you have to get a first baseman, because Mitch Moreland's not cutting it. He's been slumping ever since my last video. Ever since the week before that 16-inning marathon loss to the Yankees at Fenway Park a couple weeks ago. Hasn't really recovered. Don't think he's going to. So, who's available? Well, let's take a look. There's not a lot of options. A lot of teams are selling or are going to sell, but the asking price for almost everyone that's from mediocre to pretty damn good is just astronomically high. So there's been some talk that the Blue Jays are trying to trade Jose Bautista. Usually I would be all for it. I thought Boston should have signed him in the offseason, but he's slumping bad and he's regressing this year. He's 36 or 37 years old now. Yeah, he's got 14 homers through the All-Star break or something. But he's also hitting 210, which is just as bad as Frazier, who the Yankees stole away the other day. I didn't really want him either, to be honest. I only wanted him because it was something. He still sucks. It turns out that the pipe dream that was the possibility of getting Adrian Beltre back in a Red Sox uniform isn't going to happen, according to this week's rumors. Apparently, Adrian Beltre is owed $18 million for the rest of this year and next year. Boston doesn't want to touch that because it'll put them over the luxury tax threshold. And Texas doesn't want to get rid of him because he's a franchise player. He's a couple hits away from reaching 3,000 career hits. That's really all Texas has to celebrate this year, and probably next year. He's been their number one hitter since we let him go, really. So I've actually got an article up here from MLBTradeRumors.com. For the sake of time, I'm going to go down to the list and talk about any player that I think Boston should or actually could take a look at. We're not limited by position. I'll explain as I go along. Bear with me. Let me know if you agree or disagree. So here we go. David Robertson's already gone. This article is somewhat out of date. Sonny Gray, the starting pitcher from Oakland, is still available. Boston clearly is not going after a starter, though it would be nice for a long-term acquisition. Pat Neshek, though, I believe that's how you spell his name, from the Phillies. He's kind of their setup guy. He's in the last year of his deal. He induces a lot of ground balls. He would fit perfect in Boston. From what I've heard from my sources online, wink, wink, is that Neshek is now their number one trade target in Boston, and that's neat, and they definitely need bullpen help, but they also need a bat, so let's keep moving. Jed Lowry, he could play third for Boston. He's been awesome since leaving Boston. He was cool while he was here. But honestly, he could never stay healthy in Boston, and he's not going to save the offense. He's not a David Ortiz type that I would love to get in Boston. Eduardo Nunez, the same thing. He's a versatile player. He's also a rental. He runs fast on the base paths. He's hitting 295 last I looked. Not a lot of power. He's very much a Jed Lowry type, just a younger version. Postseason success, that's great. I would love for them to add him. But now, like I said, unless Devers falters, they're not going after a third baseman. You're not going to have Nunez or Lowry play first. Let's take a look and see who else is left. Half of these guys actually were already traded, and Boston was not targeting any of them but Frazier. Johnny Cueto, that's a pipe dream. Like I said, they're not going after a starting pitcher. They have Andrew McCutchen listed here. He's been listed in trade rumors for 2 years now. His relationship with the Pirates is kind of souring. He may be on his way out. I believe his contract is up at the end of the year. The Pirates are going to go through kind of transition after he leaves. He's their franchise player. He's only hitting 255 right now. I don't think Boston should trade anybody for him, honestly. If you're going to make an addition out in the outfield, you don't want to trade any of your 3 starting outfielders for McCutchen. Daniel Nava, the Phillies, how about not? He doesn't strike out a lot, so that's kind of nice. He's hitting 310. I don't know how long he's signed up for, but we let him walk a while ago, which was a shame as well. Yeah, there's not a lot of realistic options as we exit trade rumors there. Man, I don't know what the Red Sox are going to do. They're not going to trade the farm and pay for Giancarlo Stanton, even though it would be fucking awesome if they did. But it's clear that they need a bat, a powerful bat, to jolt the lineup in Boston. Again, I don't have a solution, I guess. Get Nunez, and no, you can't get Nunez now unless Devers falters, so I'm kind of just playing this by ear while we're recording. I really can't think of anybody else besides somebody like a Stanton who's been linked to the Yankees lately. Boy, that'd be a kick in the nuts. If the Yankees stole Frazier and David Robertson out from the Red Sox's nose, and then a week later they pull off a mega blockbuster and trade for Stanton. Honestly, here's the thing about Stanton. I don't remember if I mentioned it last week or not. The goal is to get a franchise player going forward to replace David Ortiz. Yeah, Stanton is signed for 11 more years, the remainder of the $325 million contract they would have to pay. I would wager the majority of it they would have to, because the whole deal of Miami trading him is to get rid of the deal and cut costs. But if you look ahead, after the 2018 season, Harper is a free agent, and he's going to cost north of $325 million. And it'll probably be a 15-year deal. I think I did mention that in a previous episode. And also, 2 years after that, Mike Trout will be a free agent, and he will only be 27 years old at the time, which I believe is Harper's age. No, Harper is... I don't remember. Anyway, Trout's going to cost a lot more than Giancarlo Stanton. So if you have faith in Stanton's knees, I would say that's my only solution, man. Try to trade for Stanton, take on the contract. Dave Dombrowski already said he's under no mandate from ownership to stay under the tax threshold. So if they want to spend the money, they can. I don't know who you give up for him. I say, if I had to choose between packaging Bradley Jr. in a deal or Benintendi. I say keep Benintendi because he hits consistently. I know he's only been playing on the major league level for about a year now, but I say keep Benintendi. He's younger. Sacrifice the defense that Bradley gives you with all those awesome plays in center field. Put Mookie Betts in center. And put Giancarlo Stanton in right. Yeah, we can talk about Eck and David Price a little bit more. I'm not going to read directly off the article. I don't have it up. But basically, Dan Shaughnessy of the Boston Globe, who's one of the greatest sports writers in the world, I have no reason to doubt, and nobody has any reason to doubt, that his stories are not 100% accurate. He came out with a sequel piece basically detailing the entire ordeal that happened on the team plane between David Price and Hall of Famer Dennis Eckersley. And I'm going to bitch a little bit about it right now. So, basically what happened was Dennis Eckersley was reacting on color commentary on NESN, because that's what he does, and he's fucking good at it, to Edwin Rodriguez's pitching line from his final, next to final minor league start during his rehab assignment before coming back up to the big club. And all he said was, yuck. And the numbers were yuck. Actually, now, here I do have the lineup. The lefty pitched 3 innings, allowing 6 runs, 5 earned, on 9 hits. One of them was a home run, and he had no walks with 3 strikeouts. That's when he was playing in Double-A Portland. That was his first rehab start since coming back from his knee injury. So, long story short, Eckersley said yuck on the air, as he has every right to do. He's a color commentator. He's not going to, this isn't the fucking Yes Network. He's not going to candy coat the fucking statistics like it was an awful start and he sucked. And he sucked since he got back, so Eckersley proved his point. He was just calling it as he saw him. Anyway, Eckersley gets on the team plane and was taken by surprise when David Price walked up to him and said, "Oh, look at that. If it isn't the guy who, he's the best pitcher in the world. Everything comes easy for him, huh?" And according to Dan Shaughnessy, Eckersley opened his mouth, shocked, trying to say something to defend himself. And Price twice told him to get the fuck out of here and told him to go to the back of the plane. And apparently, in a bad look for the Red Sox, a lot of the players applauded because he was apparently sticking up for Erod because they felt bullied. Well, in all honesty, and by the way, there was no apology from Farrell or David Price or anyone else other than John Henry to Dennis Eckersley. Now, I have a couple problems with this. For one, Eckersley, we'll put him up here. Dennis Eckersley is a World Series champion. I believe a Cy Young Award winner. I'll have to double check that. I forget what year. 79, I want to say. Anyway, he won a fucking World Series, and he's in the Hall of Fame. He's also a Boston Red Sox icon. Okay, so David Price, we'll put him down here. So far, he's accomplished nothing other than having the biggest, most expensive contract in Boston Red Sox history, and also making more money than any pitcher in the history of baseball. And the statistics do not match the pay that he's getting. People in Boston don't like him. He was on the record on camera last year when the Red Sox clinched the playoff berth, I believe on TBS, saying on camera that no, the passion was not why he came here. The postseason is not why he came to Boston. The reason why he came to Boston was for $217 million, period. Well, that's cool. So you're an asshole, and you don't really care about Red Sox Nation, and the fans don't like that, especially around these parts, bud. So, anyway, if you think that you're going to make friends and stand up like you're the big man on campus and you're the leader of this team now that David Ortiz is gone by putting down someone like Dennis Eckersley, maybe you should find someone else to pick on, because that's just a bad look for you, and you made all your teammates look bad too. So the one question I heard being brought up this week on social media and sports radio and ESPN and all the national broadcasts as well is, yeah, that looks bad for Boston. It looks bad for the makeup of the team. Whoever the players were that applauded kind of looked like assholes. Ungrateful young assholes who really, aside from Pedroia, none of them have accomplished anything yet. Sorry. That even goes for Chris Sale, who's a legitimate ace on this team. He hasn't won a World Series yet. Okay? David Price certainly hasn't won a World Series yet. You haven't done anything in Boston unless you won a World Series nowadays. All right? So, I heard on WEEI recently that the two big news stories this year was Dustin Pedroia sticking up for the Orioles and putting his teammates down, which was a really bad look early in the season when they hit Manny Machado, and David Price bullying Dennis Eckersley. Bad look. Bad look, man. So anyway, the question that I heard brought up on social media and everything all week long that I pondered quite often was, who is the leader on this team? And is it David Price? I mean, that sucks. He's one of the elder statesmen on the team, but he's not a true Boston Red Sox yet. And he's only been here for a year and a half, and it hasn't been a good year and a half. So yeah, a couple episodes ago I said David Price needs to opt out after 2018 and get the fuck out. He probably won't, because I don't think he'll ever make that much money again anywhere else, especially being older and not producing. But who's the leader on the club? Is it Dustin Pedroia? I don't know. Everybody thought he had the invisible C on his chest, on his uniform, and that he's the new Jason Varitek on this team, but maybe not after the Manny Machado incident and after David Price picking on the media. Maybe it's not Dustin Pedroia. Is it David Price? I guess. Like I said, he's the elder statesman on the team. He makes the most money, if that's what qualifies nowadays, but the team does have a lot of young guys on the team, on the club. Even guys that have been here for a few years, like Xander Bogaerts, he's only 24. Jackie Bradley Jr. already had a run-in 2 years ago with Dennis Eckersley, which we don't have to get into. It just makes them look worse. Mookie Betts is certainly, he's a young kid. He's not the leader on the club. Who else is left after David Ortiz? You would hope Chris Sale, or at least to some extent, but he's not, he's only been playing here for 3 months. So it might very well be David Price, and I don't know if I like the look of a David Price-led Boston Red Sox team going forward, especially when the guy hasn't accomplished anything here. He's barely won here. He hasn't won a postseason game ever, here or in Toronto or in Detroit. Okay? So, I don't know going forward, man. I mean, the Red Sox have a good 2 or 3 year window to win here, and I hope they do. But I hope this doesn't descend into a chicken and beer 2011 collapse type of situation.